Okay, this is the demo video, the tutorial for your final projects, the intro to Melody. Before you do this project, make sure you go over that learningmusic.ableton.com and make melodies page, just to get some real good analysis on how melodies work with chord progressions. I'm not going to spend a whole bunch of time in the tutorials going over writing melodies, but we'll talk about it a little bit. But if you want to go into more depth, please go to this site so you can kind of see how those work. For this tutorial, I'm mostly going to focus on step one, which is just setting up your project, creating new tracks, deleting unnecessary tracks, naming your tracks, loading instruments. So let me show you what I mean by that. First of all, I want you to go back and you're going to open up your baseline assignment. So if you did not get done with that baseline assignment, please go back and finish that first. Otherwise, you're not going to have anything to work with. So what we're going to do first of all is just like with the baseline project, we started by building on the chord progression assignment. On this project, we're going to start by building on the baselines. And I want you to resave this as a new name again. So go to File and Save Live Set As. And again, this is going to create a new ALS file, but it will still be in your chord progressions project folder, okay? Because it's going to have all that same stuff. We're going to be building off of it, right? So rename this Melody with your name on it, and then hit save. And then again, what that does is inside my chord progression project, I've got these different ALS files, and I can click on the melody one and just open up this, but I can still go back to my chord progressions and I won't have all the changes that I've made with these other ALS files. So it's a good way to kind of nest your projects if they're all building off of each other. So what we are going to do with this project is we're going to get rid of all the stuff that we don't want to use in our final songs, right? So hopefully you wrote at least one chord progression that you really like. Ideally, you've got two chord progressions that you're wanting to maybe work with for your final song, but you do need at least one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this 1-5-6-4 track because I really don't need that anymore. I'm going to get rid of my reggae chord track because I don't need that anymore. These little demo things, I'm going to get rid of those. And again, don't worry because those are all going to be saved on your baseline ALS still. And then I'm going to go and delete all these bass parts that I don't need anymore because those had to do with the 1-5-4 progression, right? So all that I have left now are my two chord progressions that I wrote and the bass lines that I wrote that go with those chord progressions. Okay. So that's step one, is kind of get rid of all the stuff that you're not going to use for your final projects, and then make sure that you have your good stuff. Now I'm might move this stuff around to it makes sense to kind of bring it up, but I'm gonna wait to do that until I get the rest of this stuff going. So step one, get rid of the old, and then let's bring in the new. So we need two new MIDI tracks at least. So I'm going to go ahead and just insert two new MIDI tracks. One is going to be your drum, so let's go ahead and rename that drums. And then we're going to rename this as melody. Okay. And we're rocking through this set. Only thing we need to do now is find some instruments. Now again, there's so many instruments out there. I almost worry about just giving you free rein to find any instruments you want, because you could spend days just going through sounds, and I know that's how a lot of music producers lose track of time. So I'm going to point you in the right direction hopefully on this. For drums, just go to the drums category, and if you remember when we made our beats, we used the 808 core kit. It's a great kit. Hopefully on that assignment too, you were supposed to find two other drum kits that you like. So if there was another one that you liked better that you found that you want to use, by all means, but I would avoid using any of those kits that have non-drum sounds, because that can really throw off, what you're trying to make sense of with your chord progressions and melodies and bass, because they're not necessarily going to be pitched how you think they would be, right? So I'm going to start out with just the good old-fashioned 808 core kit because I know it and I know it works. It's not my favorite kit for a lot of different styles, but man, the 808's a classic drum kit and sound. So if you're not sure about what drums to use, just I would recommend just drag and drop that onto your drums right now. Write your parts. Make sure you have everything that you need for this assignment, and then if you have extra time at the end, then you can go back and fuss over trying a whole bunch of different kits out with your parts. But I'd say in the beginning, just kind of make these decisions quickly and move forward that way. So I've got a drums. For melody, go to your instruments category. So I've got kind of a electric piano sound for my chord progression. I've got a real standard bass. I've got an electronic drums. So for melody, I think either a guitar or a synth might work out good. Um, so I'm just gonna type in synth, and Ableton's actually got a ton of synths. Synth lead makes sense. Yeah. I kind of like that funk synth too. And again, I'm just gonna choose it now, and then if I have time later, I might mess around with trying to find other sounds. But you can see that I really quickly just listened to 4 sounds and picked my favorite one. So don't spend all day listening to 100 different sounds to find your melody. Just find one that's gonna work, and then go with it. Next thing I want to do is just order my tracks, and this is just me, but I like drums on the left, and then bass, and then chord progression, and then melody, because that's kind of how your song builds on each other, right? Like your bass and drum should work together. Chord progression should kind of sit on top of all that, and then your melody should be on top of all that. So that's step one, just the setup. Step two, we'll talk about writing some parts. So tune in for that.